Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's Sunday, the 4th of January, 2026. The time is 9:55 a.m. Brisbane time. We've got a murky, grey, cloudy sky out there with spots of blue. Well, actually, there's quite large swathes of blue out there. So I'm not sure whether it's going to rain or not. I should put the birdie boys out, but somehow I feel like I don't want to. I have to go on my intuition, won't I? I'm sure they'd like to be outside. They had most of the day out yesterday and they really had a lovely time, but the weather was foreboding yesterday most of the day, and it was predicted by Bureau of Meteorology that it would rain at 1 p.m. and I thought, well, I'll put them out for 2 hours and I'll bring them in when it starts raining. And quite astonishingly, by about 2 p.m, not only did it not rain, but the sun came out. It was a beautiful afternoon. So I kept them out till about 5 p.m. and they had a wonderful day. But today it feels like, my spidey senses say, and I could be wrong too, that it's going to rain today. So I'll see how we go. If it still hasn't rained by the time I finish this video, which each chapter usually takes roughly 1 to 2 hours, if it's cleared up and it feels better, I'll put the birdie boys out then. They can have the afternoon out. But at the moment, I'm just holding back till I'm sure that the weather's going to stay stable, as in sunshiny and clear and no precipitation. Although, not that I'm opposed to it raining. I just don't want to have the birdies out when it's raining. That's the thing. But rain is good. Rain makes my grass grow even faster, but rain is good. It's like swings and roundabouts in Brisbane, Australia. So, if I had reliable lawn mowing and I knew what was happening, I wouldn't get myself all distressed about it. It would be nice. The whole point of having that service was to minimise the amount of stress that I'm placed under when this garden goes to rack and ruin. But it's not my fault if they didn't organise someone knowing the man was about to have surgery. It's actually not my fault. So I've decided to not care, and it'll happen when it happens. Sometimes you just have to let go the reins and watch the elastic band reach its fullest stretch, and then ping, and then it's all action stations. So, I've actually been picking up a lot of vibes the last few days, and my energies have been scattered all over the place. And then today I had confirmation that someone I care about deeply, who's been a wonderful support to me, has actually been sick. It's weird though, because it did cross my mind when they didn't reply immediately to my message yesterday. I wondered if they were sick, but I didn't want to confabulate or imagine or be negative or anticipate the worst. So I just thought, that person will get back to me when they're ready. They're a very busy person. And sure enough, I got a text from them this morning saying they've been so sick since Christmas Day, and that this morning was the first time they felt a bit better. So today's the 4th, so that's 6 days, 10 days they've been sick. So I have a powerful telepathic bond with that. I'm not going to name them who they are for reasons of discretion and privacy. It's not anything sexual, people of Earth, nothing like that. But I have a powerful telepathic bond with that person that I sometimes aren't always cognizant that it's them that I'm picking up on. because, you know, when I'm out in the music scene, it could be a vast range of people, you know. But I'm shutting all those doors and connections down. I'm going to close those down. I will only keep my telepathic bonds available and accessible to people who are genuine and sincere and honouring of me. So that's another thing I've made my mind up. I'll be shoring up those leaky colander telepathic structures, because they're not soul affirming or life affirming or even fucking safe anymore. So I have actually been trying to work out for the last, actually since about New Year's Day, 4 days, whose energies I was picking up, and they would come in waves, and sometimes kind of I was picking them up as kind of what I culturally appropriate, half jokingly, but it is a form of cultural appropriation. But my Native American friends know that I'm very fond of their culture, and I don't know, but I may have had a past life as Native American. I can't categorically attest to that because I don't actually know, but I have a strong affinity. So when I culturally appropriate, it's done not as an act of racism, but an act of deep honour for their culture. And so I just want to preface that. But when I talk about picking up smoke signals, it's a bit amusing because it's a bit like that. You know, the energy from, now I know categorically that I was picking up on this particular person. I'll be a little bit more cognizant next time, and I'll reach out a bit earlier, because I've just felt the need to reach out to them yesterday, and I thought, why? You know, I see them fairly regularly. So but yeah, it comes as like smoke signals, and it can feel like a distress signal, which, you know, I kept thinking, who's in distress? Why is this person in distress? But no, it wasn't distress per se that I was picking up on. It was that they've been sick, and obviously I was picking up on the annoyance and frustration that they finally get a bit of a bloody holiday and they promptly got sick. But as I wrote to that person, it's quite normal. The body keeps the score, and you finally get a break, and instead of full relaxation and surrender and enjoyment, having a beautiful holiday, your body just goes plonk, your immune system goes plunk, and you catch something and it just flares up. How I know this is, I don't have holidays because I can't afford them, but every time I come through a long period of stress or distress or trauma activation, or even sometimes euphoric hypomania, you've poured so much energy and emotion into that state. Sometimes you've sustained it for days or weeks or even fucking months, or indeed years, that eventually you just drop your bundle, and it's not necessarily like a mental emotional breakdown per se, although I do have those too, but it's more of a full body collapse, and it can be a bit confronting, you know, when you literally knocked off your socks and all you can do is just lie around and wait for this feeling, this physical manifestation, not just feelings, but this illness to pass. Dis-ease, as I like to call it. By the way, I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. I'm not credentialed. I don't have any claim to that, but it's just something I've observed from years and years of my own self-healing and watching happen to other people who are quite literally workaholics by definition is, you know, your body can only carry on for so long when it goes splat. So a reminder to those of you who watch my videos, take it easy, life's short. As I used to say to my former rabbi, who was also a workaholic by definition, life's not a, how did I used to put it? I'm trying to remember how I used to put it. It was quite witty. Life's not a 50-yard dash. It's a marathon, so you need to pace yourself, rest when you can, work when you can, rest and go with the flow rather than these mad, hectic, being all things to all people, frenetic, exhaustive, chronically exhaustive, fatiguing, depleting states. But I've realised that I do that too. I would not have ever considered myself a workaholic before. In fact, I used to categorically avoid all work because it used to make me violently ill. Don't get quite so violently ill from it anymore, but what happens is, you know, you've probably seen me when I've posted my little projects like these little, I'll show you. I finished polishing them up. Was it last evening or the evening before? Last evening I finished them. I did the bulk of them the evening before though, so I just finished the last two. Anyway, when I'm working on a project, like these little Pegasi, plural, I've yet to solder the posts on the backs to turn them into earrings. I think they should look quite lovely. Let me just hold it up against my ear. Yes, that will look quite sweet. So when I personally am working on a creative project that involves lots of silversmithing, it's not just creating the thing, it's polishing it up, bringing the shiner out, and maybe setting stones, etc., can be quite a laborious task. So what I've found is I get so obsessively hyper-focused on it that I become quite a workaholic. And I'll work, you know, all day, sometimes 15 hours, until I literally drop. That happened when I made those lovely kalaka earrings that I tried to emulate from the original ones that were bought for me by my daughter. So yeah, it's intense. But then what happens if I work like that, you know, so intensively, my body shuts down. Sometimes it takes me 3 to 4 days to recover. So when I say and give sage advice that you need to chip away at it slowly rather than do this solid intensity of energy outpouring like a 50-yard dash and then collapse, but if you just slowly pace it out, the thing gets made. It just takes a bit longer, but you don't have that immense crash at the end, which is sometimes a bit frightening, you know. In my case, if I have a massive crash, it can involve suicidal ideation, panic disorders, anxiety, or if it's a physical crash, epic diarrhea, hot and cold chills, sometimes fever. Sometimes it'll be the other way, I'll be chilled instead of feverish, and I just have to go and take myself to bed and lie down and sleep it off. It can involve other physical manifestations, like my arthritis will flare up. I'm getting a lot of, so I'm hugging my left wrist, getting a lot of pain in my left wrist in the mornings, which is in the joints, so I know it's arthritic. And this wrist has not been too bad, which is ironic because I broke that when I was 7, so you'd think that would have been the more sensitive wrist, the most sensitive bones and joints. But anywho, so yes, I have to remind myself to be gentle with myself and go with the flow. But, you know, reading stories to my YouTube audience is not terribly arduous, but I do get quite tired. And, you know, so I just do 1 chapter a day, you've noticed, unless I've got extra vim and vigour, then I might continue on with 2. But these are, you know, quite large chapters in this book, so 1 is usually enough for the day. And, you know, retrieve my energies to go and, you know, as I say, I worked on those sterling silver pegasi last night. Or I find something out, or I, you know, spin fleece, which I'm still working on. Still got a lot of fleece to spin up. So just chip away slowly at something that gives me meditative, contemplative, pleasurable, peace-inducing relaxation. Although yesterday I had such a broiling anxiety, actually the last few days. And I thought to myself, why am I in this state? It's not mine, it's someone else's. You know, or I was picking up their energy and manifesting it in my own body as anxiety. It's been intense, actually. So, and like, no reflection on that person, that they're not doing anything malicious, or it's not conscious, you know, malevolence or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. It's just I knew that I was picking up something, and I wondered, I thought, who is this that I'm picking up on? And so in a way, I'm pleased to get that confirmation, because it can be crazy making when you don't know what's going on. There's no verbal, you know, direct communication. So I'm so relieved to find out, not that my friend is sick, but that I'm not relieved about that at all. I'm distressed to hear that, but that I wasn't, you know, that I was, what's the word? That I was indeed somatizing energy, and well, it's a powerful telepathic alliance that person and I have, and I'm grateful for it. They've been a wonderful protective force in my life from a distance, which sometimes is the best way to interface with the Tanya, because I'm so fucking intuitive that it can be a bit overwhelming, up to and including for me. So, but yes, I feel such relief to know, A, that person's okay, because I actually started to panic last night. I was like, it's unusual they haven't responded, I hope they're okay. I actually had that thought, but I didn't want to badger them, because they're on holiday, and holidays are sacred. They really are. But I've decided that I'm going to be withholding or withdrawing a lot of my energies that I've been pouring out into my sphere of influence or confluence or connectivity, because it's wasted energy. It depletes me, feeds people who, as I say, are not always honourable, don't have my back, my sides and my front, and the only reward I gain from it is kind of a gaslighting or scapegoating or isolating or contemptuous. So I'm calling back all my energies. Access is denied. If you wish to access my mental, emotional, physical, psychic space, you will need my express permission, and I'm reclaiming my power. However that may appear to be, it may appear to be quite cold and detached, but as I said, I will only be expending that energy on those people who have proven over time to be true allies and supportive of me and respectful of my psychic space in particular, but also, you know, my mental, emotional spaces. Doesn't mean that I think I'm better than anyone else or that I have anything to offer in any particular way. Each soul brings their own wisdom and their own gifts and their own talents and abilities, which I greatly enjoy and value, but I'm just not going to be fed from in a vampiric way. It's not cricket, it's not kosher, it's a form of soul rape. So I'll be holding things very firmly together indeed. And I tend to be a bit malleable because I'm actually, you know, an empath, and in spite of my prickly, ornery ways, I'm actually a very loving person, very affectionate. Not many people know that about me because I don't express affection too often in places that I deem to be unsafe or disordered, dishonouring. My affection is reserved only for those that I trust, and when that trust is broken, I will no longer express that physical affection. I may still express emotional or spiritual affection or intentionality, but even that will slowly be cut off if I'm seeing a certain level of depravity or dishonouring or disdain or condescension, because I function better this way. I've had to learn that over time, not to be too giving and not to seek other people's approval or even acceptance, because I've had a lifetime of being othered and slandered, raped, strangled, betrayed over and over and over again. So when the Mama T draws the line in the sand, it's a line that shall no longer be crossed. So it is what it is. Doesn't mean that I like certain individuals less or that I no longer love them. The love remains, but you know, the changes in behaviours in the past 12 months in particular have been chilling to actually witness. Very fucking chilling. And it's a slippery slope, and I know from being a child of survivors of the last Holocaust and from reading dozens of books on the Holocaust, I know what that signifies when the masses become ruthless, unconscionable, incapable of aligning with victims of a crime or of terrorists, are silent in the face of evil, which is the scariest thing of all, because the silence means they in some ways are aligning with that. And watching that play out in the last month. When was the shooting? It's not quite a month yet. The 11th of December, wasn't it? It's only the 4th today. Well, in the last 3 weeks, that has been very, very telling. Very, very insidious and invidious. And so my silence or going grey rock is not that coming from that headspace. It's just about I will not be pouring energy into people who are cold, empty, ugly, hateful, and ruinous. The Mama T, aka the Tanya, aka the psychedelic dreamer, aka Miss Five, who is the wisest of all my alter egos, because she's pristine and untainted by everything that came into her life from the age of 6, has spoken. So let us continue on with chapter 25 of Bodicea, Dreaming the Serpent Spear. The dead man lay face down in the water. His hair was spread out round his head like the fronds of a sea anemone, pulsing a little with the rock of the waves. It was a dirty yellow, the colour of old straw, which was no help at all in identifying him. He could as easily have been Siluran, a friend whose body should be retrieved and given cleanly to Briga, or one of the Batavian cavalrymen who should perhaps be taken care of with more respect for Corvus's sake, if nothing else, as one of the straw-headed Romans who littered the 20th Legion, a product of their time in the northern lands. If he were that, then there was no reason he could not be left slowly to sink and feed Manannan's creatures in thanks for help in the battle. Igraine sat on the end of Mona's jetty with her feet dangling just above the lap of the water, and watched him bump gently against the oak pillar. He wore no armour, but that said nothing. Half the legionaries had abandoned their armour on the outward crossing when they saw the anger of the gods sea. For men who lived and died by the sword, death by drowning was something to be feared almost as much as death by fire. Better to face warriors unarmoured than fall into the hungry water and sink while still living. My Booty boys are so very quiet. Why you so quiet, handsome boys? Are you listening to Mama reading the story? Oh, you want to go in the garden, don't you? Want to go in the garden? I'm not teasing you with the garden though. The weather looks like it might perk up, my boys. We'll see how we go. An upturned barge nudged at the dead man as a cow herds her calf, pushing him farther out to sea. The body spun a little, limbs outspread like a starfish. The right arm was missing from the elbow down. Blood leaked out in lazy threads to stain the barnacles into the green-grey weed. There was a tattoo that curled up towards his armpit. That would have hurt getting that done, all that soft flesh. But it actually hurts more when it's closer to the bone. I want more tattoos, but I can't really afford them. Oh, poor Mama too. Another thing that I've missed out on, along with holidays and owning my own home again and having a true loving partner. Will I cry about it? Nah, used to it. Used to it, people of Earth. Used to it, which is a bit astonishing. I had all those things once, all except for the true loving partner. But I did have a nice home and with a swimming pool and a business, and beautiful children. And now it's all gone, all of it, including my children, all gone. I mean, they're not dead, don't get me wrong, but they've all abandoned me. All gone, 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 gone and gone. That I could cry about. Losing both my daughters was the worst thing that could ever happen to any woman. But it is what it is. There's no way I can call them back to come back to me. They have to want to, and after 16 years, clearly the youngest doesn't want to, and the eldest has been gone now for over 2 years. 2.5, October, 2 years and 3 months. Well, they're adult women. The eldest is 40 now. So it's incumbent on them to realise that I loved them beyond all rhyme or reason, and in the ways that I failed them, it wasn't all my fault, all my doing. And life's short. One day I won't be here, and I exist anyway, painfully, with or without them. But they'll realise that one day when it's probably too late. I just realise it sounds like Jewish mother, guilter schmilter, guilt, but it's not, you know. It's a reality. You don't realise till it's too late what you lost. And I haven't been vicious to them like my mother was consistently vicious to me. So there actually was no need for those estrangements. Really wasn't. But anyway, their choices, their life, their whatever they think they have to do to keep themselves happy and contented in their myopic, egocentric ways. Have I been myopic and egocentric too? No, I went on to pour love into so many other people, and when that didn't pan out, just withdraw my energy again and again and again. So it is what it is. I tell you what I have experienced the last 2 days. My sense of smell, my nose feels a little bit blocked, but yet my sense of smell is being multiplied times 10. Yesterday I could actually smell all the frangipani flowers, which I've lived here for 22 and a half years and I've rarely been able to smell them, people of Earth. But I was outside reading to you and I was overwhelmed with this scent of frangipani. I actually started sneezing. And this morning I took a shower. As you can see, my hair's still drying. And I leaned against the shower wall and I got this strong waft of the bleach that, you know, my cleaning lady cleans the walls with. Hit me. I was like, oh, I don't normally smell that, especially she cleaned last on Tuesday, so it's not quite a week, but close enough. 5 days. Shouldn't be still smelling it. Don't normally smell it at all. And even the smell of the soap I was washing myself with, I was like, wow. And then what was the other thing that I noticed was powerful smell? Oh yes, the shampoo and conditioner I use. I was like, you can still smell it very powerfully. It's like I'm not normally consciously aware of the scent sensations. It's been a bit weird having that happen out of the blue. So anyway. Where did I segue at? Oh, there was a tattoo that curled up towards his armpit. It tugged at old memories, but not clearly. Nothing came clearly. The horror of battle had brought the workings of her mind to a halt, and she had not found a way to start them again. She stared at the water and tried at least to pray. She failed at that too. He's Batavian. I heard him fall. Balos came to sit beside her. He had a staff which was a new thing, long and twisted and painted. She thought it might be hawthorn, but could not be sure. It looked like Luann McCalmer's work, a gift from before the battle, perhaps. She borrowed it and reached down into the water and used the ram's horn handle at the end of it to hook the man's shoulder and turn him over so that his face could be seen. His mouth fell open. His teeth were white and very even. He could still have been Suluran. Granny said, "How do you know who he was when you can't see him?" There was a small gap, time enough for her to realise she had been rude and that he did not mind, but was concerned about how he should answer. At length he said, "His ghost is still near." She should have known that. The battlefield was crowded with the ghosts of the dead, and she knew them only by the deadness blanketing her mind. She said, "I think perhaps I know now what it is to be blind in the land of the sighted." Balos was gentle and easy and tolerant. His day had been better than he could have prayed for. She had watched him stride along the beachhead, directing the dreamers as if he was as sighted as any of them. Just want to turn my little earrings around, my little parlour shell and ebony earrings that I made. Pretty. Not quite the useless eater the Weffers wanted me to be, robbing me of homes and safety and stability and health. Well, they did that with the Hep B vaccine. And what else did they rob me of? Everything, including my external world where everyone has been so traumatized and damaged they can no longer sustain real loving connections with me and perceive me as some kind of threat because I held my line and maintained my truth and my hypervigilance and my wisdom and my sanguinosis and my body autonomy. I think that pisses them all off the most, that I didn't fall prey to that lie. Well, you should have listened to me. I begged you. I even rang up an ex-lover and said, tell everyone you know, don't comply with that programming. It's evil and it's coercive and it's a lie. I wonder if he listened to me. I wonder. We'll never know now, will we? Doesn't matter, I don't want him. I don't have any romantic feelings for him anymore. I don't want him back or anything romantic. But I'd just be curious to know if I actually saved anyone at all. Couldn't save my friends and my daughters, they simply wouldn't listen to me. Well, I couldn't reach out to my younger one because we were a long time estranged, but I gave the elder one clear directions to warn her. So I didn't save anybody except for myself, and by the gods I'm hated for that. But it's what you do, save yourself. On a crashing aircraft, it's you put on your own mask first before you save anyone else, people of Earth. But I did try. I can swear on the Torah to that. I'll get out the Torah just for a moment. I swear by Almighty God, the Ein Sof Or, that I tried to protect and save you all. But if you did not listen, those of you that I could reach out to, and the rest who were denied access to me because shadow banning and silencing by social media platforms, is not my fault. But know that I did try, and the losses I have sustained for being a decent, honouring Homo sapiens sapiens, a true lover and a true friend and a true mother, have been immense. That's all I have to say about that. Blessed be the Holy One, the true Judge, and the only true healer, by the way. If you believe or don't believe in God, then you have to at least put trust in your own higher mind and your own ability to heal your own body, mind, spirit, and soul by your own fortitude and holding your own line and your own prime directive to protect your own physical, emotional, mental, spiritual soul space at all times, morning, noon and night. Amen, Vasila. I'm not a particularly religious person anymore, but I still have all my Jewish prayer books and the Torah, and one day I might return to the fold. Stranger things have been known to happen, but I lost trust in that community too. After decades of vileness and treachery, abandonment and condescension and viciousness, and othering, by the way. Even when I went to the Holocaust Museum, they kept grilling me, who are you and what are you? I said, how dare you? I've been a member of this community for 30 years. Really, they said? You step away for only about 6 years and how quickly they forget. But anyway, it doesn't matter in the broad scheme of things. God knows who's true and who's good and who's honouring, not just as a Jew, but to our entire Homo sapiens species. God knows what it costs me. Speaking of God knowing, you have to see this, people of Earth. This is beautiful. This is where the gods shine upon us. How can I can't. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's power-headed rosellas in the guava tree. With a little Indian ringneck stalking the little pale-headed, yellow-headed rosella. Well, that's beautiful. That's made my day. That's made my day, you see? Just as I was talking about God, that energy sends me some more lovely wild birds, which sparks joy in my garden. The wild ones are here, little boys. The power-headed rosellas. And they said, we're stuck inside with the fan and the murky day. Well, you'll be going out soon, boys, because I can see the skies are clearing somewhat. It's potential to have a lovely afternoon out in the garden. But we won't have it if Mama T doesn't stop digressing and segueing and slip-sliding away. The nearer you get to your destination, the more you're slip-sliding away. It's true, I've lived that many times too. Now, what's that birdie behind him? It's got a red belly. Is it another power-headed rosella? Or is it a king parrot? Can't quite see. They wouldn't be out together, would they? Oh, that's just gorgeous. You see? Sacred space, Titania's realm, is blessed with the most beautiful birds. It's what happens when you put all the work into creating a beautiful garden and a landscape that is healthy and not poisoned and holistic. The birdies come. The birdies come. And the lizards, and sometimes the snakes too. Although I haven't seen a snake since, I think it was early December, I had that snake climbing up the pathway and I was about to go out dancing. I thought it was going to move in like Sybil did, but it didn't, thankfully. Right, where's that little one going? Where's he going? It's climbing up through the guava tree. Oh, they love that guava tree. Yes, the other birds are power-headed rosella too. But he's got a real shiny red underbelly. Must be the male. Beautiful. Right, we continue on with the story, people of Earth. Sorry, I got distracted there by the birds. It's a worthy distraction though, isn't it? Looking at something beautiful. Right, I'll just read that paragraph again. Bellis was gentle and easy and tolerant. His day had been better than he could have prayed for. She had watched him stride along the beachhead, directing the dreamers as if he was as sighted as any of them. Only once did she see him stumble, and that was because a horse had gone down and its thrashing hooves came too close to his head. He said, "No, you don't, but you are perhaps deaf when others can hear. It's not the same, but it's not easy. Did you want to know more of him?" He took back his stick and dried the handle on his cloak. Without waiting for an answer, he said, "He was a cavalryman. His horse was killed earlier in the day and Corvus gave him another. He stayed close to the Decurion because of it, and so lived when the sea came to eat them," meaning that whirlpool that he correctly identified. One of the legionaries attacked him when Corvus brought his troop across to escort them back to the mainland. He was too far into the dream to know friend from foe. Jesus, not Jesus, but I've lived that a million times too. Lost in my own psychedelic dreaming, putting faith and love and trust into other mortals, not realizing who truly were my foes and who truly were my enemies, and sometimes my enemies becoming friends and my friends becoming enemies. I've lived that a million times too. In this incarnation, it's fucking chilling and astonishing and terrifying and humbling, but I've been humbled enough by other people's savagery. So on we go with the story, people of Earth. The legionary or the cavalryman? Both. But the cavalry were recovering by the time this one died. They could see enough through the smoke to know land from sea, and they were not all caught in the havoc of the nightmares as the legionaries were. Corvus understood what was happening. It was good that your vision in the fire said to leave him alive. That was what was wrong. Granny's stomach twisted in on itself so that she felt sick. She said, "This wasn't what I saw in the fire. In the fire, the cavalry and all the legionaries killed each other to the last one. Not one of them was left alive except Corvus." She looked out across the straits. Far away near the shores of the mainland, the first of the Roman barges was backing water with the leeward oars turning broadside to bring wounded and exhausted men as close to the shore as they could safely go, so they would not have to disembark in deep water. Corvus had marshalled them, and they had left under his command in something approaching good order. It was nothing like the ending she had woven in the fire. She said, "The governor only sent half of his men to attack us, and half of those have gone back again. In the fire, 2 legions died on Mona. We should have killed them all." This time, Belus took far longer to answer. Long enough for the nudging barge to herd the Batavian cavalryman out to the wide water of the straits, where the currents caught him and began slowly to spin him, and then faster, drawing him down with each revolution, until the spiral of straw that was his hair was gone too far beneath the water to see. She felt a sudden tug at her midriff and a hollowness as of a room made suddenly empty. Because she was angry, she said, "Thorn lived. I saw you say goodbye to her, as if you thought she might not." That was for later. Belus was being remarkably patient with her. No one lives forever, and there is no harm ever in catching the joy of a day while it lasts. Indeed. He leaned over and trailed the tip of his staff in the water, carving a furrow. More seriously, he said, "If we had not spared Corvus, then very likely the legionaries would have killed each other to the last man, as they did in your vision. Certainly they were still held in the dream when he got them in the barges and made them leave. He's a good man with an understanding of the gods, so I'm not sorry that he was left alive. But it may be that we have altered something that will change the futures beyond what you saw." She had already thought about that. She said, "I didn't see Corvus being killed when I looked in the fire, and I did see 2 legions attack Mona. Today, the governor only sent the 20th. He did not hold back the 14th because of us. No, and you saw Valerius and Sigfa lead the charge on the foreshore, but not the Boadicea. It seems to me that perhaps you saw 2 things at once, that part of it was for today, and that the rest is to come at some other time. Even if not, we can do nothing to change what has happened, only live with what is given us." Indeed. One day at a time, sweet Moses. Hold your line. Stay safe, stay wild, stay free, stay awake and aware. Never ever let the bastards grind us down. Those little birdie boys have gone, flown off. Oh, they were so sweet. I hear lots of birds twittering coming from the forest, I think, which tells me storms or rain is on the way because they're all talking to each other. It does look like we're going to get rain coming from the north. It's really black out towards the north. But the sun's come out and it's shining heroically. It's weird, isn't it? It was all murky before. Well, what will be will be. One moment at a time, one breath at a time. Belus stood. His staff came to the top of his head. The ram's horn was carved in the shape of a crow's head with amber for the eyes. Sounds lovely. Small points of fire, they sparked in the sun. Snakes twisted below, rising and falling along its length. Granny said, "Mikama has marked you for Briga." He smiled gently. "I think the marking was done a long time ago. The elder has simply made it clear for even me to see. Shall we go before it gets too dark? The legions won't be back today. Possibly not even tomorrow. And by the day after, perhaps, we will know why things happened as they did. Or we won't. And we'll fight again, but it will be against men beaten once, which is to our advantage and not theirs." He extended his hand, an apology for slights that were not his fault, an offering of help, a promise of support. Need another drink of water. Forgot to bring the bottle in, didn't I? Ah, poor Mama too. Goodness, there's quite a few pages to go. That can't be right. Because I did a long preamble today. Indeed, there's quite a few pages. I can survive without a drink of water for a bit longer. It's going to be a long video, this one, though. It's like 10 pages long. I could break it up, though, if I get tired, people of Earth. Going with the flow. Right. Granny took it and let him raise her up to her feet, and they walked back towards the great house, along paths that he could feel and she could see, where plantain was beginning to spread and the cow parsley to scatter white flowers like frost now that the hawthorn was past, and a curlew rose piping from the higher reach of the beach and soared back over the salted grass of the paddocks to the new growth greens of the heather and birch beyond. Along the way, she saw a sword on the shoreline and ran back for it, so that, for the first time in her life, she walked in dusk towards the dreamer's place with a blade in her hand. Corvus had dropped his sword and so was unable to fall on it, which was unfortunate, when he had just pledged his life as a sacrifice to the sea. He waded out of the water and watched his mare sink to her knees and then her side on the hard rock of the mainland. He sank to his own knees beside her and kept a hand on her heart. The beat rose faint to his touch and unsteady, but it was there. That mattered above everything, above Ursus and Sabinius and Flavius, and how they had fared on the long, desperate swim back, above the men of the 20th Legion who had heeded him through the fog of their nightmares and had brought themselves home across the mile of hungry ocean to safety. And most assuredly above the towering presence of the governor, Suetonius Paulinus, by the emperor's pleasure and courtesy of the emperor's waning patience, governor of all Britannia, charged with the task of subduing the West or dying in the attempt. The governor had not died in the attempt. The 3,000 men had done so to very little effect. What a waste that is, isn't it? The ravages of war, just a waste of life force and potentiates and future progeny and future civilizations built on peace and honour and real love and integrity. Fuck that shit. That's what's stolen when you wage war on each other, people of Earth. Creativity, bliss, potentiates, and progeny. Who knows what genius might have been spawned by those that were lost on Flanders fields or in the Holocaust or the genocides that followed quickly later. What has been lost in this current COVIDian paradigm? It's unforgivable. Something close to 2,000 others had returned from the battle, alive but beaten. The governor evidently did not consider this to be any kind of victory, and it was well known that he did not tolerate defeat. He stood on the strand at the margins of the heather and the rock, with his hands clasped tightly before him, and his face was set as if carved in monumental marble. Without looking down to where Corvus knelt, he said, "Prefect, you will present yourself." Corvus pushed himself to standing. His teeth were chattering and would not stop. His flesh shook like a man with palsy. His hand dropped out of habit to the place where his sword hilt should have hung. With some effort, he remembered that he had unbuckled it and dropped it on the shores of Mona just before he set his mare back into the waves, in a place where the currents were clearly lethal and already 2 barges had overturned. In a world and at a time when he was certain of nothing from the solidity of the ground beneath his feet to the identities of the men at his side who had begun to take on the shapes of ravens, dear goddess, I know that feeling. He had thought of dropping the mass of iron bound to his waist a remarkable act of sanity. A part of him thought so still. Have you ever seen a decimation? The governor's face was very close. The bloodshot eyes were watering in the wind. Rage, or that same wind, had turned his nose red as a coxcomb and set it streaming with mucus. He looked like a mummer in a Greek farce. As it happened, Corvus had indeed seen a decimation. The memory was carefully buried in the far reaches of his mind, where it was not likely to emerge without warning and unman him. He was very careful not to think of it now. He said, "No." The sea still washed through his ears and throat and sinuses. It juddered in his eyes so that he had trouble focusing, or perhaps it was the aftermath of the dreamer's smoke. He had not been able to focus clearly on Mona either. It was the sea, not the island, that had crippled his senses. His nose and throat had been scoured by the brine, leaving only deadness behind. Ursus was close by, and Corvus could not smell the Dacian wolfskin. There was a time, less than a day before, when he would have thought that a miracle. And now it seemed yet one more waystone on the path to disaster. He considered the strangeness of a world without scent, and for a moment it mattered more than the governor's threat. I wonder what it means that I've got my sense of smell back. I hadn't even realised I'd lost it. It's a bit odd, isn't it? I've never been able to smell those frangipanis. I often pick them, and it's only when I really put them right up to my nostrils and really inhale deeply that I get a vague scent. So it's odd that I can smell them. I can actually smell the scent coming through my open windows. And it's really potent. It's quite strong. It's quite lovely. But I've smelt things before. I hadn't completely lost my sense of smell. The sweat of the glassies in the club some nights when they forget to use deodorant, or were working so hard that the deodorant no longer had effect. Oh, that used to stink. But I couldn't be angry with them because they're hard-working men, lathered in sweat, stinking. I find the smell of men's sweat abhorrent, but that's because of my childhood abuse, and there's certain smells can fucking tip me over the edge. It's why I have to lock that away too. But I'm particularly find the smell of women's sweat too abhorrent. It's why I can't go to gyms, for example. It's the stench. I just start vomiting. I really do. I'm like, bleh, bleh, start heaving. Very sensitive to smells. Oh, anyway. Warily he said, I've missed something. We've skipped a bit. Right. He considered the strangeness of a world without scent, and for a moment it mattered more than the governor's threat. Corvus sighed and took no trouble to hide it. On the lee shore of Mona he had stared into the eyes and hearts of things worse than death. Luann McCalmer had promised life, not sanity, and his protection had not extended to saving the integrity of Corvus's mind. Wearily he said, "The second governor, Scapula, threatened decimation of the 20th at Camulodunum when the Iceni were in revolt. He decided then that he did not have sufficient authority. These men were in the grip of the water and the dreamers. They are too exhausted to walk. Most of them can barely stand. Even if they could hear you, I doubt if they are physically capable of drawing lots. And if they did, I don't think you could find any 9 of them fit to lift a club to the 10th. In any case, none of those who have lived through the hell on the shores of Mona is willingly going to slaughter a friend who stood at his side. The 14th could do it, but if you set the men of one legion to kill those of another, you will cause a rift that will last beyond our lifetimes, however long we may live." The governor's gaze darted round the bay and came back to Corvus. He inhaled and clearly regretted it. Doubtless Ursus's wolfskin was close and wet from the sea, which would not enhance its odour. I just love how that wolf that was slaughtered to provide that skin kept getting revenge in perpetuity through its stink, people of Earth. It's a bit funny. It's a bit feckin' funny. He said, "I do not consider myself likely to see the luxury of a long old age, and less so after today. We must take this island and wipe out all those who live there, or we die. We may die in the taking, but it will be better than what will happen at Caesar's hand if we return defeated. Have you no stronger reason why I should not visit the wrath of Rome on the men who have failed me?" And so Corvus said the rest of what he had understood as he had dragged himself out of the water and realized that bringing half a legion of men back alive from the teeth of Hades was not going to be enough. And quietly, distinctly, and knowing what he did, he said, "You have not earned the right. You were not there to face the enemy with them." Valid point, but audacious. In Yiddish we call that chutzpah. He saw the blow coming and did nothing to dodge it. The hilt of the governor's knife took him on the left temple, where his helmet might have protected him had he not thrown that too onto the shingle of Mona. He felt the shock and sudden anger that always came when he was hit, and then a long, long fall that lasted an eon. and was time enough to see the faces of those he would want to meet when eventually he was allowed to die. He did not think that would be soon, given the depth of the governor's temper. He saw Ursus looking concerned and was not sure if that was in his mind or not. Then he saw Valerius riding his mad horse and knew he had fainted, and so felt free after Valerius had gone to embrace the dark-haired Alexandrian who had given him the falcon of Horus as a parting gift and never come back. Last, he saw his mother, which surprised him, and then not. He had landed as an enemy on Briga's land. It was right that a mother should come to see his ending. Soldiers dying in battle almost always call out for their mother, unless they had mothers like mine, in which case they call out for that mother to fuck off and never darken their soul ever again, which I did do when I had major surgery in 2007. I was actually hallucinating that my mother was coming down the hall under the influence of the anesthetic and the trauma from the equivalent of 3 operations rolled into one. Horrific it was, utterly horrific. The nurse that was with me when I came back from the operating theatre and witnessed me hallucinating my mother and casting out that demon and telling her not to come near me in actual fear and panic. That's how fucking evil she had been to me. That surgery was the 30th of October 2007. I'd been put through absolute hell all my life and was still going through hell at that point in time too. Anyway, round about day 5, when they were about to finally discharge me from that hospital because it had been such a rough journey, everything went wrong, including a massive bladder infection and inability to pee more than 15 mils at a time. So I was running backwards and forwards, gathering up piles of, what do you call them? They're like shallow bowls that you pee into, you know. Oh dear goddess, it was the best I could manage, and the nurses couldn't keep up with it. I was in absolute state. I didn't even have the chance to heal properly though, because I realised constantly had to pee and they couldn't help me. They were busy with other patients. So I took charge of my own healing and went to the nurses' station and piled up 20 of those potty pans or whatever you call them. The stainless steel, and you know, they have to sterilise them afterwards. But anyway, finally, after being swollen like an elephant, which on day 3 was really unpleasant because I had a catheter still in and I was swollen and the bag had exploded because they didn't change the bag often enough, and I'm soaked in my own urine, was the day that my few friends from my Jewish community decided to visit me as an act of mercy and kindness and Yiddishkeit. And I was swollen out to here, soaked in my own piss, and actually still a little bit out of it. And I was like, you picked a fine day to visit me, boys. Oh, they laughed too, but they were a bit horrified. Brenda, who was, you know, in a de facto relationship with an endocrinologist, so you'd think she'd seen sick people before, and who I had visited when she had her own surgery, took one look at me and said, I can't deal with this. This is just too gross. And abandoned me. Awful that was. Utterly fucking evil. I just looked at her and went, yeah, bye. Bye-bye. And I said to the 3 men who were around my bed, you can leave too if you like. I understand this is most unpleasant to see me in this state. But they were good and kind men, and they stayed and fussed over me as if I was their own child. It was actually sweet and loving. I haven't forgotten. I have not forgotten. And the nurse educator, the Māori nurse educator, who had seen day 4, I think it was, when I was finally up showering, that awful nurse be so disrespectful of my body. Didn't touch me, but he was leering like a fucking animal. But anyway, the previous day when all the visitors came, and her husband that visited her came to fuss at my bedside too. Oh, they all felt dreadfully sorry for me, the way I'd been neglected and abused systemically by that hospital. The men had more empathy. They could see how vile it really was. Me soaked in my own piss, swollen and suffering. Anyway, but that lovely nurse, her husband ran to my bedside. Oh, you've got visitors. Shakes hands with the 3 men. One was Ron. One was Mervyn. Who was the third one? There were 3. And I can't remember who the third man was now. Someone from my congregation, from my temple. Anyway, the nurse educator's husband ran over, shook their hand. It's been terrible. Look at her. But they were all traumatised too. It was really quite beyond. But anyway, what was I saying about that? Ah, yes, hallucinating my mother coming down the hall. Yes, I'm back on the program. So, at day 5, when I'm about to be discharged, and I'm still feeling fucking ill and woeful, but I was grateful to be going home, people of Earth. The nurse that came looked at me, smiled at me, turned her head. She said, do you remember me? No, I said. I haven't seen you, in the last 5 days. She said, yes, you have seen me, but you might not remember because you were under the influence still from post-surgery, from the anaesthetic. I said, yes, that was like a waking nightmare, wasn't it? She said, you were so frightened that your mother might visit you, come to visit you in your most vulnerable state. She said, I just want to acknowledge that. She said, you were really traumatised. All your traumas came to the fore post-surgery. And she said, I want you to know that that's actually completely normal. You're not crazy. I went, oh, really? Thank you for confirming that. I kind of know I'm not crazy. She said, I just want you to know I was there. I saw how you reacted. And you've been very, very brave, Tanya Aarons. And you've been very, very blessed and protected too. I just looked at her and I nodded. Thank you, I said. It's very kind of you to say. Not feeling at all blessed and protected by that whole experience in that hospital. The Kiwi too. Evil they were. They threw away my patient file. When I was undergoing the class action about the TVT tape they installed on me at that surgery. Threw it away because of my truth speaking and activism. Like cowardly fucking dogs they are. Cowardly fucking dogs. But I remember that nurse being very kind and acknowledging. She said, "You were completely hallucinating." He said it was as if she was running down the hall. I said, "Oh, my mother would never have come." I said, "At any rate, she's at that time we'd been estranged for 7 years." I said, "There's no way my mother would have come. I don't even know why I feared it so much." I said, "But it's spiritual. It's a spiritual manifestation." And I said to her, even soldiers call out for their mother at the end. So it's a bit unusual, me calling out for a mother not to come near me. She nodded and smiled. She actually understood. Anyway, that's another dark fucking real lived experience, trauma memory. So we'll move on from that, because my mother does not have the ability to hurt me anymore. It took many years, even after the will dispute concluded in September 2012. I think it actually didn't really reach a kind of a conclusion until after my suicide attempt in August 2015. It took that long for me to say, "You don't have a hold over me anymore. Fuck off." That's how powerful a grip she had on my spirit. So when I tell another soul to fuck off and stop tormenting me, even in the dream state, I mean it. I've dealt with it before, and I won't be going down to the life experience, skirting my own death in an attempt to shuck you off. If I say fuck off now, and fuck off forever. Mama T has spoken. Interesting, I start coughing at that statement. But it's the smell of the frangipanis that's making me cough. I might shut the window. It's got really intense. It's weird because the birds don't seem to be affected. You okay, birdie boys? Yes. Right. Oh, it's a powerful scent. All right. Mama T's not doing the life, death, life cycling today, people of Earth. I've fought back from death, including in that awful surgery multiple times. Although I don't think I died during that surgery, but I'm not sure. They kept looking at me very strangely, but I think it was because of hallucinating about my mother, not that I'd actually died. Although it'd be interesting to see the full notes. I did receive some of the surgical notes, but none of it mentioned me dying on, even momentarily. So, but that was a grueling fucking surgery, people of Earth. Grueling. Right. I mean, I'm much better now, ironically, at least I'm continent. But, oh, dear goddess. Fuck. The things I've survived in this life and the satyrs that would pile on at that time have been astonishing. That's the worst. The ones that pile on when they think you're weak and vulnerable and unable to protect yourself. But the three wise men from my shul that came to visit me, and even Brenda fucked off, couldn't handle it, to you to this day. Who was the third one? I was actually surprised to see him beside my bed because I didn't think he was particularly had any real warmth or friendship towards me. I won't name him, but I've just remembered who I think it was. It was astonishing, but I just was civil and played along nicely because it was a kindness to come to my bedside when I was literally trying not to die with my bladder. Day 4 was so bad I considered jumping off the roof of the hospital, and a nurse came and she said to me, she was Irish. The Irish nurses are the best. They're so down to earth and real people of earth. I don't know whether it's the ancient Celt that's in them or that they've come through dire trauma and poverty themselves, or that it's built into their DNA, but they're real and authentic and courageous. She came to my bed and she said, today you will pee a full volume, at least 200 mils. Today you will pee normally, and when you pee a normal full volume, then you can go home. I know you want to go home, Tanya. I just looked at her. I said, I don't think I'm ever going to be normal ever again. I think it's permanent damage. No, she says, I am determined. Today you will pee like a racehorse, and then we can discharge you and you can go home. I just looked at her like that. Oh, really? So for the next hour, 2 hours, 15 mils, 20 mils, 30 mils. She came in again. How'd you pee today, Tanya? I'm going to die from this, I said to her. No, you're not, she said. No, you're bloody not. I'll be back in the next hour. You'll have good news for me. Oh my God, this woman's willing my defunct bladder to perform like it's never performed before, on command by another person. She was a true healer, that woman. She really was, apart from being a registered nurse. Some registered nurses aren't fit to call themselves healers. Mama T has spoken. I've met them all. But anyway, she came back. I think by this time it was quite late in the afternoon and I'd given up. I was in absolute despair. She says, what was your last measurement? I said, 120 mils. It's still not much. Not much, she said. That's a huge improvement in what you've been passing. You little legend, she said. You've done it. The next one will be more again. And she was right. So day 5, they said to me, you can go home now. I wasn't in a fit state to go home alone with no one to look after me. I was a fucking wreck. I came home to such fucking abuse from my own daughter. I couldn't fucking believe it. Twice they did that to me. Again when I had the gallbladder surgery in 2019. Kicked me when I was the most weakest and vulnerable. No, I have not forgotten, even though I yearn for reconciliation because they're my children. I haven't forgotten the evil they put me through either. That's why I don't fight that hard to have them back in my life, because when I was very ill and very vulnerable, they were utterly savage to me, just like their father was to me when I was birthing them. Bit of a fucking long history of that, isn't it? Anyway, people of Earth, it's a long digression and it went into quite true and dark experiences, and I don't know why I'm doing this. It's not like anyone gives a fuck about me or actually cares. Maybe I'm telling you because I want you to know what exactly immense traumas and ignominies I have personally survived, and I want you to know that in these dark and vulnerable making rotten times, with a bit of heart and courage and determination, you too can survive it. I bet you won't be put through anything like I was put through though, othered because I was poor. One of the nurses was coming down the hall. That I'm going to see that poor bitch in bed. I can't remember the name of the bed now. She walked in, I just looked at her. Poor bitch, am I? Oh, you heard me. My former friend reported her and the whole nurses' station. They didn't know that she was a forensic psych nurse. She said, I'll report you all for negligence, systemic abuse, othering, psychological torture of my friend. She said, I'm a nurse of 40 years experience. I've never seen anything like this. Health Rights Commission. They all looked at her like this. Sprung. They didn't know that I had a nurse visiting me and could see it all playing out. Could see how ill and traumatised I was, concurrent with trying to heal my fucking post-surgical injuries. Health Rights Commission, and after that I clicked and they jumped. I wondered what had happened, but I still took pity on them, which I should not have done. Should have made them work their asses off because they owed me big time. But I'm a realistic, pragmatic person. I could see they had other patients who were fresh from surgeries that needed prioritising. So I went and I got my own potty pans and I did my own nursing, right up to defending myself when that fucking creep was leering at me in the shower. No time even to heal like a normal person who's been put through the mincer. No, wasn't a luxury I was given, even going home to more fucking monstrosities. So, excuse me while occasionally I feel the urge to scream and vent on my own YouTube channel. It was evil what was done to me. But I've survived that and a multitude of other evils. It's why when I draw the line in the sand, like the bulwark, you shall not pass, because I'm long past done with humouring or tolerating rotten, befouled, evil people of Earth. I don't care what age, class, creed, station, status, occupation you indulge in. I'm done tolerating evil bullshit. Right, carrying on with the story. It's a long video today. Mamatees venting. I promised myself I wouldn't vent anymore because it falls on deaf ears and my enemies actually get sexual stimulation or titillation from it because they're sick, evil curs. But the truth needs to be out there for those few rare, precious, good people that need to learn what other humans are capable of and what it takes to survive them, people of Earth. There are good people that are my subscribers too. So on that night, the Batavians were celebrating and somebody had killed a pig. The sound of drunken singing came and went in a rocking rhythm more sonorous than the sea. It matched... Oh, that didn't sound good. What's he doing? Blowing himself up. Backfired. I can actually smell the backfire from the petrol from the lawnmower. Can't believe how sensitive my nose is today. It's not normal for me to be that sensitive. Not for a long time. The sound of drunken singing came and went in a rocking rhythm more sonorous than the sea. It matched the throbbing pain in his head. It focused on the left temple. The smell of gutted swine waxed and waned to the same tempo and failed entirely to cover the stench of wet wolfskin that lined his nose and his head and his lungs, thick and pungent as month-old fish. Corvus lay still, savouring the ugly mix of colours, and was grateful that he was not going to have to die without the power of smell to remember the world by. He lay under cover, which surprised him. An uncertain rain stammered on a tent hide above his head, slurring the Batavians' choruses. Beneath the rankness of the wolf hide, the air smelled pleasantly damp. He lay on linen and was no longer in his armour. Someone had undressed and washed him. His face felt clear and clean, and he no longer tasted brine when he licked his lips. He could not bring himself to open his eyes, but the crisp bite of the air spoke of night. He was not in pain. That was the second surprise. Except for his head, which had been broken open like an egg and was leaking his thoughts out onto the floor in a tumbling mess. That had happened before, and Theophilus had treated the headaches that ground him down. He spent some time thinking of Theophilus and how he would take the news that his friend the prefect had been executed for failing in his duty. Corvus wanted to reach him, to explain the nature of the sacrifice willingly given, and the nature of obligation. He wanted it known more widely than only by Theophilus, that the gods accepted such things in the spirit with which they were offered, and that there was no dishonour, however it might seem, in the eyes of Rome. The needs of his own pride surprised him through all the years of battle, with death never farther than the thickness of his skin and the blade that might sever it. He had thought that what mattered was life and the manner of its living, not the nature and time of his death. One learns to make peace with that. Living with death as close to you as life, in an ever swirling spiral, yin and yang clasped together for eternity, each containing the seed or the germination of the other. Luann McCalmer, for whom he had an abiding respect, had said something similar. Take the life that is offered and live it well by your own heart's truth. It occurred to him that Luan Mackalma could see things that he, Corvus, could not, and that the dreamer had not meant him to give his life to Manannan of the wild seas for no better reason than to assuage the anger of another man. Fuck that shit. Die because some other man hates you. Been there, got the t-shirt. Won't be happening again. People of Earth. Fuck off. Fuck off. And when you get to the gate, that fuck offs can no longer be heard. Climb over it. Keep fucking off forever. Those demonic imps that dare to infest my dreams. Access denied. And if you continue, there will be far-reaching consequences. I've been very, very patient and considerate and empathic and kind. But you have mistaken yet again my kindness for weakness. Psychic, infested, archonic, vampiric, bloodless curs. You simply haven't had the life path that I have, and you thought me crazy or stupid or worthless or a victim. That one in particular thought that my victimhood cast upon me by worthless knaves was an excuse for him to pile on as well. And now you will pay. Mama T has spoken. You will pay with things more precious than gold or silver. The Ancient One, Boadicea and all my other muses have spoken. And I don't hate you actually, but I have seen who you truly are. You're just another manifestation of ugliness cast upon us by a dying Western civilization. Pitiful and poisoned and piss-weak. And I would be sorry for you, but you showed me no mercy either. Right, on that note, we continue with the story. Thank you, Spirit. I heard that. Thank you. I don't speak Latin, but I understood the first word was Deus, which means God, and something exactos, but I might have misinterpreted the second word. Three men came to visit and show me support when I suffered in that horrendous surgery, for which I was compensated a mere $4,000, by the way, for which I was grateful, since I've lived in poverty for 31 years, but it's not really good enough, is it, for what I was put through at that hospital at that time frame. The three men came that were kind, and the nurse educator, the fellow patient, and her husband, and that one nurse who acknowledged that I'd been deeply, deeply traumatized in that surgery. And the rest were nothing but the purest. Oh no, I forgot, there was another nurse, a locum nurse, that came and asked why we hadn't had our teeth brushed and we hadn't been bathed, and why we were all lying there languishing like animals. So too, well, we're not in charge of how things are run here, are we? She said it's a disgrace. She came back with little kidney bowls and brushed each of our teeth and brushed our hair and gave us sponge baths. That woman was also a wonderful nurse. So the truth must remain the truth. I'd forgotten that. She was a wonderful woman too. And the little Irish nurse that was determined that I would pee in complete volumes so I could go home. The rest in that hospital were utter fucking monstrosities. Shame, so shameful they were that it took my former friend to threaten them with the Health Rights Commission for them to start behaving like health professionals. Amazing, isn't it? Amazing. In the never-ending dark, he heard the elder's voice with the gods' sea behind it. If you are careful from here forward, you will meet my son at least once more in this life. He thought he had been careful. He fell asleep, reaching for Theophilus and for the dreamer to ask them where the carelessness had been. In the place of no time, I'm going to have to split this up, people are there. In the place of no time, he dreamed of a decimation and what it was to watch an entire legion in which 9 out of every 10 men clubbed to death, the 10th with whom they had until that moment shared life, bread and battle, and in some cases a bed and passion and love. In his dream he was able to stop it, which he had not been in life. When he woke next, someone who knew how clear air helped his headaches had lifted the tent flap behind his head and left it open to the sky. The breeze stroking his face was a kind one, not the cutting wind of Mona, which had carried the wailing of long dead men and old women and the insidious smoke. The smell of swine and fresh blood had changed to one of roasting pork, which meant, now he came to think of it, that in his absence, someone else had ordered the slaughter of the Quinta Galorum's only hog. A rough, tired voice said, "That took you long enough. He didn't hit you that hard. I was beginning to think the dreamers had stolen your soul, and I'd have to send Flavia swimming back to Mona to find it. He'd go, you know, for you. After today's work, I think he would follow you to Hades and back and not speak against it." Ursus? Corvus said it flatly, which was unkind, and smiled to take the sting from it. He had blocked a sword blow that otherwise would have decapitated Flavius. It had not been an act of any particular merit, and he had not thought anyone else had seen it. Possibly none had. And Flavius had spoken of it, which was telling of something, if he could only work out what. He considered sitting up and thought better of it, and stared up and stared at the tent hide and then sideways to the small flickering soapstone lamp that cast odd-shaped shadows across his chest. He watched them a while and saw that the rancid wolfskin lay on him as a covering. And never in the 5 years he had known Ursus had he seen the man allow another so much as a finger's touch of his talisman. He said, "I am more grateful than I can say, but you shouldn't be here. After today, I am not safe to be with." Ursus sat by his head. He grinned and was upside down, so that when he winked, he became for a moment the monsters of Mona's beach, and Corvus had to close his eyes to be free of them. Against the back of his lids, he heard Ursus say, "Safe enough until Paulinus who was not poor. Even in my poverty, I am not poor either. I am the embodiment of the Bodicea. Remember that. Boys, even my psychiatrist, recognised that in recent years in our therapy. Still, I'm also a mortal woman struggling to survive like everyone else on this planet, and I deserved better than the way I was treated. In more ways than one, darling. Darlings, plural. Right, where do we go from here? Where do we go to, my lovely, when we're alone in our bed? For we carry the thoughts that surrender. I want to look inside your head, yes I do. What's that? Something stuck in my toe. I remember the back streets of Naples, to children covered in rags, and so on and so forth and so on. It's all bollocks, isn't it? Can't change the past, can only build a beautiful life for your future, and it starts in the eternal now, shucking off all those who've demonstrated their disloyalty and their worthlessness. People of Earth, Happy New Year. It starts with now, today, this moment, this breath, this gnosis. Safe enough until Paulinus has finished talking to the messengers, which could be morning by all accounts. He doesn't often get sent word for his own ear by royalty. Royalty? Corvus sat up too quickly and the world became a deep, unpleasant red. He bent his brow to his knees and breathed through his mouth. Muffled, he said, "Which royalty? Have the Esseni sent a messenger to the governor?" "Hardly. If Sabinius is correct, and he's been spending an untoward amount of time fixing the haft back on his standard, very close to the back of the governor's tent, then the message comes from Katimandua by the emperor's very great pleasure, Queen of the Brigantes. But then there's also the legate. 2 tribunes and the first 2 cohorts of the second come up from the far southwest on their own initiative. They're bringing the same message, which means it is probably true." And Corvus cupped his palms over his eyes and wished he could think more clearly. The pattern of his dreams pressed in on the sides of the tent so that he could hear men screaming, and then the quiet, sudden quiet, when it all stopped. He said, "What was the message? What is it that fights? So what is it that brings the fighting arm of the second this far north, and a messenger from Katimandua's south, before the trade routes are fully open?" There was no subtlety to Ursus. The news was bubbling out of him before he spoke, washing him with its greatness and the implications both personal and political. As a man offering a gift of great value, he said, "The East is in revolt. The Esseni have risen again and are storming Cumulodunum. 'Twill be in ashes by now, and after it Canonium, Londinium, Verulamium. Without any legions to stop them, they have a clear run through all the towns south of the river down into the Berikos lands that border the sea." It was impossible. It was inevitable. These 2 raced together into his mind and clashed agonizingly in his left temple. What happened to the 9th? They hold the East. They could stop any revolt before it began. Not anymore. The 9th is broken. The Esseni used Arminius's tactic from the Rhine and cut them to ribbons. What's left, which is not much, is under siege in the fortress on the eastern coast. Petilius Kyrialis is alive, but I don't imagine he will be for long. If he has any sense at all, he'll fall on his sword. Ursus dismissed it, as if the loss of a legion were a small thing, to ruin only one man, not an event to bring down emperors and the men who served them. Oh God, this is a long chapter. I'm kind of struggling, can you tell? That missions must be completed, people of Earth. Striking back to the track of his heart, he said, Flavius thinks the woman we freed was the Boadicea. It's lucky you saved his life today. He'd be reporting by now to the governor, else with you and me and Sabinius, dead men on the back of it. Paulinus might forgive you for calling him a coward when there was nobody about to hear it. He won't forgive you for freeing a rebel who has lit the tinder in the pitch pot of the eastern tribes and... Are you listening? The ninth is broken. The Esseni used Arminius's tactic, not the Esseni, Valerius. No one else could have betrayed Rome in the way Arminius did. Seeing him on his insane horse in the Esseni steading with the procurator at his feet, Corvus had understood that Valerius was going to join his sister, if she lived, if the rest of the Esseni nation would have him and not stone him from their thresholds. Viewed from a distance, with hindsight and the understanding of the tribes, it was possible to see that Valerius's whole life had been shaped by the gods just for this. If one wished to believe in the gods and their shaping of men. At that moment, Corvus very badly wanted to believe in something that shaped a life and all that came after it. All things are possible in death as in the dream. He wanted to believe that too. Through the blackness of a sudden knifing loss, he heard his own voice say, "Of course, I always listened to you. If you had any sense, you'd turn me in yourself." He waited for an answer in kind and was met by silence. He took his palms from his face. The flame from the small soapstone lamp was too bright. Ursus was staring at him. Shaking his head. "You're not listening. Flavius is unstable. He loves you and now he owes you his life, and so he resents you as well. He'll talk because his mouth will run away with him and think of the reasons afterwards. I thought you were going to deal with it, but you didn't. You could have let him die there on the foreshore with no harm done. No one else would have known." Perhaps. The smell of roast pork reached Corvus's belly and his head at the same time. Hunger and nausea gnawed at him equally, making him salivate. Sometimes eating helped. He considered it, and then regretted the thought. Through a rising gorge, he said, "I'm a condemned man. The governor can have me hanged in the morning for leading the retreat on Mona, or for freeing Briaca of the Esseni from the procurator's crucifixion. Either way, or both, I can only die once. You and Sabinius have life still ahead of you. I prefer to think Flavius is his own worst enemy and will kill himself before he kills anyone else. But if you too think he's a problem, you can decide what to do about him tomorrow or whenever it is that he forgets I saved his life. In the meantime, if you don't want me to be sick all over your wolfskin, do you think you could twist some favours out of the Batavians and get me some pork? A voice from beyond the door flaps said, I have it, and I may be my own worst enemy, but I won't forget what you did. The air in the tent grew suddenly sour. The smell of the pork was overpoweringly rich and still did not come close to obscuring the stench of wet wolfskin. Corvus shut his eyes and opened them. He said, I'm sorry, and the word dropped into the open abyss at his feet. It was not, could never be enough. Flavius stood by the door flap to the tent, not quite inside. He shook his head flatly. You said what you believed, and he said what he believed before it. It may be he was right. If I had not seen you block the centurion's sword today, I might be talking to the governor now, and I might tomorrow, whether I remember it or not. But then I may be too late and may die with you. I am not the only one who knows what you did. There were 20 of us rode with you into the Iceni steading to face down the procurator, and I can't be the only one who has worked out whom we saved. If you think I am alone in wanting to buy my own life with information, you are more of a fool than I took you for. Flavius's gaze raked the length of Corvus's body, from the scars at his ankles taken on shipboard, past the knotted spear thrust beneath his ribs, to the new throbbing bruise on the side of his face. Something flickered in his eyes that could have been grief or spite or contempt or the promise of retribution, saved for later. He said, the governor wishes to speak to you in his tent. He has called a tribunal. You should dress first. He had brought a board with 3 slices of hot meat laid on it and a cluster of olives at the side. The meat was perfect, running a little to pink at the middle. Do not ever eat pink pork, people of earth. The crackling was brown-edged and fine. The olives had been stoned and were arranged all in a ring, pointing outward. He laid his gift down at the tent's threshold and stepped back into the unclouded night. He turned to leave and went 3 paces and turned back, and the grief on his face was plain, working from his throat to his mouth. Thick-voiced, Flavius said, I had thought better of you. It had been the risk from the start. From the moment Corvus had ridden into the Iceni steading, with the 20 men of his personal retinue at his back, and seen a woman he knew on the ground beneath a whipping post. From before that, when he had seen a hawk scout of the Koratani with a knife wound to his lip, and recognised something of the wildness in his eye. From before that, when he had seen a youth of the Esseni in a horse fair in Gaul, and recognised more than simply the wildness in him. Tracing back the lines of intent was pointless. Boundaries had been crossed, and trust breached, and at each step Corvus had created justifications for himself. That he was not betraying his emperor, or his standard, or his oath to his general. That he understood the complexities of tribal life and was well placed, possibly best placed, to judge how things might be rescued from the calamities of others' actions. That he could act out of honour, and that it enhanced the honour of his race and his office. Walking the short distance across heather and the beginnings of mud to the governor's tent, he considered saying as much to the tribunal waiting inside, but the words walked in his mouth, and he abandoned them unspoken. He was not going to lie, to taint the life that was left. He had learned that much. He thought of what he could say. I did it because a woman once offered me her blade when I needed it, and I did not understand then the depth of what she gave me. Or a child gave me her horse, as from a sister to a brother, and in my ignorance I thought then that I did understand what she gave, and did not until I rode it today in the straits and found the greatness of it. Or simply, it seemed only honourable. The last sounded hollow. It was also the only one any of those inside might hope to understand. On the whole, he considered it might be easier to remain silent. He did not imagine it would make any difference to the outcome. He reached the tent. The glow of braziers made reddened patches on the hide. He could feel the warmth and damp and sweat and fug of burning charcoal from beyond the door, and then smell them. He himself still smelled of wet wolf hide, which was unfortunate and could not be changed. He breathed in the air and savoured the heather and the sea and the sharpness of a spring night's cold, and then scratched on the door flap and heard the clerk inside step up to open it and announce him to those who would judge all that he had been. It was not a tribunal, but something greater. The legate and tribunes of the 2nd Legion were there, and the same of the 14th. 2 of the 3 senior officers of the 20th had died in the day, leaving only a junior tribune to lead his legion. 8 officers therefore sat at the desk made for 4, shoulder to shoulder, crowded, with lamps lit in front of them, so that the lines of dark and flame made bands up their faces. A ninth man, bulkier than the others and with white blonde hair, sat at the table's end, with room to breathe and move and stretch, to wrap his thick fingers about his goblet of wine. Thrice 3, the number of Jupiter. A full military court. The rushes on the floor had been cut wet and had begun to rot. Corvus felt them slip away from his feet as he walked. Time yawned for him, so that the distance from the door to the standing place where the lamps all shed light was as long as the swim out to Mona had been. He knew all of the officers who faced him, some better than others. Galenius, legate of the 14th, had been a friend in his teens. Agricola, tribune of the 20th, shared the governor's tent. Clemens, senior tribune of the 2nd, had quartered in Camulodunum for a winter and shared baths, wine, and dinner too often to count. None of these men met his eye or showed any sign that they knew him. It was left to the white blood Briton to turn and study him from head to feet and back again, and then to say, "So this is the man you would see dead? He does not have the look of one who would face the gods and live long, in the sea or out of it." He spoke Latin with the accent of the north. No one chose to respond in a military court. By consent and order of the emperor, those present deferred to the officer of highest rank, who was the governor. A man of the tribes, even a messenger sent by a loyal queen, was a barbarian, and so excused his ignorance of protocol. Corvus finally reached and halted before the governor. The man at whose favour he might or might not be allowed to live looked up eventually from the 2 slate-blue running hounds who had held all of his attention. Paulinus was composed again. The rage of earlier had gone, replaced by the familiar, dry, acerbic curiosity. Corvus had seen him condemn men while in exactly that frame of mind. He met the open, brown gaze as evenly as his throbbing head allowed, and waited. It was possible to believe that the men who would judge him could not hear the beat of his heart in his chest. It was less possible that they could not see the shudder it sent through his frame with each spasm. He pressed the tips of his fingers lightly at his sides to steady his hands. Eventually, "You have rested and eaten?" the governor asked. Yes. It was a lie. One small untruth of little moment compared to the great well of deceit that Flavius, or one of the others, might choose to open. Of the 20 who had ridden with him into the Iceni steading, 8 had died to the sea or the dreamers. He had trusted the others with his life, and they him. He tried not to think who else might betray him. These things showed too clearly on a man's face. Good. The governor shoved his chair back from the desk, stood and rested his hands on the oak table. The clerk, whom Corvus despised, sat in dimness behind, poised to take note of the verdicts. The governor lifted one of the lamps from the desk in front of him and moved it to a stand at the side so that the shadows lengthened and the clerk became invisible. Paulinus returned to stand behind his seat, and the only sound was the slip of his feet on the slimed rushes of the floor. Rigid now under a brighter light, it came to Corvus that he did not know this man well enough, that of all the governors he had served, Suetonius Paulinus was the only one he had not taken the time or made the effort to understand. The governor's loves were well known, beyond the easy pleasures of the hounds and their boy. Agricola had shared his tent since they first came west. So too were his hates. Disorder and inefficiency ruled their lives, and his old campaigns in the Atlas Mountains, roof of all the world. Aren't the Atlas Mountains in Turkey? I think they are, not sure. I think they're in Turkey. The details of these things were common currency in the legions that served under him. I feel an urge to vomit right now. Don't know what that's about. I'll finish this paragraph and I'll grab a glass of water. It's not like me to have nausea. The details of these things were common currency in the legions who served under him. But they did not reveal the things that had shaped his childhood and his youth. The men he had admired, those he had scorned, those who still fired his mind, whose approval meant something, whose disapproval would wound. Too late, the lack of this knowledge. I was going to get water, wasn't I? I'll carry on. Too late, the lack of this knowledge became obvious, and that the sharing of it might have saved Corvus's life. The pressure in his head became quite astonishing. He wondered if he might faint, and if it would change anything if he did. The governor looked down at his own clasped hands. His fingers were fine as an artist's, the nails neatly cut and very clean. It took a great deal of effort to achieve that on campaign. Alone of all the officers present, Corvus's fingernails were similarly clean, but only because he had spent the better part of the day in the sea. It was not a useful thing to remember. The governor said, "I have described the failure of your assault on Mona to our guest, Vellocatus. He is of the opinion that you should not be alive. There was relief in having the waiting over. Corvus said, "You have it in your power to make that true." "Of course, and I may yet do so. Certainly there are those amongst your peers who would support it." Paulinus ran his gaze along the line of heads beneath him. Clements of the second coloured. The rest remained commendably silent and still. My guest, however, would consider that rash. "He believes you possessed of extraordinary courage and fortitude, and swears that you must lie under the protection of this island's gods. The first, of course, is expected of any officer in Rome's legions. The second is fortunate in the current circumstances. If you are careful, you will meet my son once more in this life." Corvus felt the air crack and shift. Because he was being exceptionally careful, he did not ask what they knew, or smile, or take in the breath that he needed, but raised a brow and turned to study the blonde tribesman who sat in the only place of any comfort at the end of the table. He was a broader man than any of those present, built like the Batavians, with a bull neck so that his head seemed set directly onto his shoulders. Well, that man has no neck. I shouldn't joke about it, because with my double chin I look like I have no neck too. What can I say? Fat is a feminist issue, people of Earth. I come from a stiff-necked people. People who never back down, never weaken, never let the bastards grind us down. Fight with everything we have in us, not just for our survival, but for our thrival. Blessed be the Holy One, the true judge, Emmet. Adonai, Siphosistu, I've forgotten the prayer. Adonai, Siphosistu, Ufia Gita Hilatecha. May the words of your mouth, may the words of your mouth forever. May the words of your mouth, I've forgotten the prayer, dear Goddess, I actually struggled to say it in Hebrew. I've been gone too long from my people. Trust me, they don't miss me either. The truth speaker is always the one most hated. It's always been so, across every culture, every creed, every tribe. The prophetess is the truth speaker, most hated and feared of all. Betrayed, cast out, sullied, destroyed again and again and again but like a phoenix I keep rising, people of earth. May the words of your mouth and the sentiments of your heart redeem you. Words to that effect. I'll have to Google that later. Adonai sifataitiv tach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Got there in the end, but I had to really think about it. I've been hanging out with the Goyim too long. Fellow witches, pagans. Ultimately, they have betrayed me too. What can I say? There's nowhere on earth, no human I can completely trust in. That is my reality. And it's utterly, utterly horrific. He had oddly effeminate hair that might have been a true silver white in daylight, but the lamps had turned the burnished yellow of colt's foot. One day a friend, the next an enemy. One day a lover, the next a hateful fucking enemy. And for what, people of earth? Because I wouldn't cede my body autonomy or go along with the toxic poisoning of my species, or be silenced, or be raped, or be humiliated and degraded and abused by men not worth the black under my fingernail. Fuck you, dogs. But actually, ultimately, it all becomes a bit funny. That's how pathetic and evil and perverted you are. I laugh at you, and I laugh long and loudest and best. And when you eventually die, it is my laughter that will be ringing in your ears. The thing men fear the most, women laughing at them. But you started this war with the Tanya, this spiritual war. You thought, she's a little old lady and she's crazy, she's poor, and we'll take the piss out of her. We'll treat her like she's filthy and worthless, and we'll laugh at her. We'll have entire parties over it. I'm well aware. And now there will be no redemption for you. I asked you politely to stop with your wickedness. And you did not. So the Tanya laughs. I'm laughing on the inside, because I have seen how it will all play out. No stone left unturned. Most of you are already the walking dead, even if you're still in denial and don't realize it yet. You have chosen your hatred for a woman who fought for you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically with my dance. you thought I was weak and lonely and pathetic, you'll be thinking again when you cross from this threshold between life and death, those of you who turned treacherous for no good reason, but I would not lie in your bed while you betrayed everything, including your own souls. It's ridiculous when you think about it. It's so ridiculous. It's like a tragic comedy. And it's not funny. It's not funny at all. But when I start laughing, I, please forgive me, may not be able to stop. It lay loose to his shoulders, his hair we're talking about, falling heavily over a tunic of sharp green with a yellow knotwork at the hem and short sleeves. The gold band coiled above his elbow was richer than any of the southern tribes could afford. The long shape of a mare was laid into it in white gold with a triangle above. Avelakatos. His name began to mean something. He was not simply a messenger. His placing at the head of the table made more sense than it had. Corvus said, "It is a long time since we were honoured by a messenger of the Brigantes, still less the consort of Katimandua, their queen." The man's eyes were pale in the lamplight. "It is a long time since the Esseni rebelled. You were a prefect even then, I think, when the governor's son won his oak leaf at the battle of the broken tribes." Yes, I do have another wave of nausea. That's unusual. I will go and get a drink of water, I think, people of Earth. Hello, my beautiful police, my angel faces. The sun's come out, the story's nearly finished. You know what that means. We've got to go in the garden, boys. We've got to go in the garden. Mama has to go to Woolworths and buy some tahini so I can make some more baba ganoush. And some mayonnaise so I can make some nice salad dressing of some kind. And I might buy a hot chicken too. Right, where was I? And I apologise to those good souls that come to my channel that see me moving in and out of these states, but It's spiritual, and I'm holding it at bay, firmly gripped in the hands of the gods, because I know what you're all capable of, people of Earth. But there is good in this world too, and I acknowledge that. And good always, always, always triumphs over evil. But it may take some time for the good to finally awaken in those who were weak and submissive to their overlords. The governor knew the truth of that battle, and he had never encouraged servility in his officers. With faultless courtesy, Corvus said, "Is that how it is known in the north? The Iceni call it the Battle of the Salmon Trap and celebrate it as a victory." I would not argue with them, except that the reprisals afterwards on their people were savage, and they could be said to have lost because of it. The younger tribune of the second gasped audibly while his peers kept better control. Galenus, legate of the 14th, who had once been a friend, allowed his gaze to drift right a little and dropped the lid of one eye. At the opposite end of the table, the blonde tribesman stared and then stopped staring and reached for his wine. He swirled it in the goblet until his fingers ran red. At length he said, "There is luck and there is brazen foolishness. It is hard sometimes to distinguish the one from the other. Perhaps your actions on the God's Island today were less courageous." The laughter was mine, because been there, done that too. "Perhaps your actions on the God's Island today were less courageous than they seemed, and more a failure fully to comprehend the dangers. If you think reprisals against the Iceni steadings will be enough to recompense the destruction of Camulodunum, or rather, do you think? Will it stop them from burning everything south of the city to the far southern ports where your ships land and your merchants trade?" Corvus said, "The Iceni alone are not numerous enough for that, nor, I think, would their ambitions drive them so far from their homelands." The blonde giant smiled. His teeth were thick as pegs with gaps between them. "Then it is unfortunate that they are not alone. The Trinovantes have joined them. How could they not when Camulodunum is under assault? The Catuvellauni may still be loyal to Rome, but the Coritani and Cornovi in the Middle Lands have sworn allegiance to the Boadicea's standard, and half a wing of Batavian cavalry has defected and holds the remains of the 9th Legion penned in its winter strongholds. The combined spears of the Brigantes have not yet joined in the host. My lady keeps those who might do so under a tight rein. If she were to falter, then without question the East is lost to you. There was pride in his voice behind the false sorrow. Galenius of the 14th was of next highest rank to the governor. He pressed his hands flat on the table so that the fingertips blanched. Speaking for the first time, he said, "And our guests from the 2nd Legion report that the Duratriges and the Domnoni of the southwest are less controlled than they were. They too, it seems, have joined the rebellion." There was a chair to Corvus's side. At a nod from Paulinus, Corvus sat down. The governor signalled the clerk, who drew the sandbox from the side. The surface was already swept flat. The clerk used a stylus to etch the outline of Britannia with the toe in the west and the backbone curve to the east. Correct. I had to think about it for a moment. And the islands of Mona and its greater cousin Hibernia off the wild westerly coast. Fastidious in his every move, he laid down the stylus and placed a small coppered eagle on the coastline, opposite Mona. The governor placed a larger thumbprint in the east, in one moment erasing the memory of Cumulodunum. He swept his thumbnail down and angled inwards. "Here," he said, "along the Tamisus that the natives call the Great River. Clemens believes otherwise, but I say that when they finish burning Cumulodunum, which will be in the next 3 days, unless a miracle happens, and the veterans can withstand a longer siege, then they will come south to the site of their first defeat, to burn the trading ports along the river to the bridge that Vespasian built. He built it low, that big ships might not pass under it. The port he founded is the biggest on the river and the most likely to hold out against attack. If we can reach the bridge, take it for Rome and organise the local magistrates to hold it, then we have a route by which to reach the southern tribes that have been longest loyal to Rome. Berikos's attribates, Corvus said. Indeed, if we are cut off from all routes to the coast and to the sea, we are lost. The bridge is our lifeline, and attack is the best defence. The legions move too slowly. It can only be done with cavalry. I need a drink of water. I need a troop led by an officer who knows the shores and the tides, and the shipmasters who will accompany me. For the price of your life, you will come. Corvus stared at him. To face the entirety of the Iceni? 2 of us and 1 wing of cavalry? He had not thought the governor the kind to embrace death so willingly. Less than 1 wing. We will not fit that many on the boats, So we must arrive before the Iceni in the company of riders who can return with orders. A legion can only go as fast as the slowest mule. 24, perhaps only 12. Horsemen can take ship from the port here to here. He drew the stylus south and planted it as a flag on the coast, due west of the seaport on the river. The magistrates will know the nature of the danger and how close they are to destruction. If we have time to call the legions down, we will do so. If not, we will know what it is we face. In my absence, the legate of the 14th will lead the continued assault on Mona. When do we leave? With the dawn tide. The Iceni won't wait, or their allies. If we are to live, we must retake Britannia. To do that, we must ride. And thus concludes chapter 14. It's been real, it's been intense, it's been spiritual. I've moved in and out of ordinary reality right here on this channel for all the world to see, which the uninitiated will deem crazy. And the initiated will know completely that my gods are with me, since my enemies are legion and clubbed together, and I am perceptibly alone, even abandoned by my last long-standing friend. But Mama T, the Tanya, is never alone. She walks with the gods, the angels, the ancestors who love me, my muses that sometimes work me almost to death, people of Earth, the good folk, the interdimensional ones, the fairy, and a few good souls who still love me and back me where they can. So, have a beautiful, blessed day. Be not afraid. The Tanya knows best who and what stands with her, and the rest are of no real consequence. People of Earth, blessed be. Have a beautiful day. I think I already said that. Bye for now. I'll be back to tomorrow with chapter 25, I think we're up to. Is that correct? Yes, chapter 25. Bye for now.